family.
So there's one distinction that they didn't mention. I was a founding member of Chocolate City, of which I'm very proud. So first, with an introduction like that, I have to apologize because I'm bound to disappoint you, so don't have a high expectation. That's just what I look like on paper. And I know that there are many awards to come and the evening is late. So as Kim Kardashian told her first husband, this will not take long. I used to use that joke and talk about Elizabeth Taylor, but some of the people got too young in the room, they didn't know what that meant, but everybody knows about Kim Kardashian. So 50 years of family, this is really an important and exciting time for me to be here and to speak to you tonight. I came to Interphase in 1975, 6 years after it started. For me, it really did change my life. I went to an all-black high school in Houston that did not have calculus as a subject at all. We didn't have calculus, so I kind of had heard of it but didn't know what it was. And my physics class, as it ended up, was a little bit of a joke once I got here and figured out what physics really was. But my tutor in calculus in Interphase was Jim Gates, my instructor, my teacher. And he got me prepared at least enough to make it through school when it started. As others have said, Interphase was more than just an academic exercise for me and preparing me for the rigors of MIT. It really was a socialization aspect for me. I grew up in Houston. I had not traveled out of Houston much. Certainly, I'd never been to Boston before. My first visit to Boston was for Interphase. I didn't do the pre-college tours that others do. So to socialize from Texas to Boston was a feat for me, and Interphase certainly made that better for me. Also, as it ends up, I don't know if they still do this, but I got credits come out of Interphase, and those credits helped advance me at MIT so that actually I did my bachelor's and my master's in 4.5 years because of some of the credits that I got through Interphase. So for a lot of reasons, Interphase was amazing to me. But most importantly, it helped me begin to build this family. And there are many, many people in the room that I've known since my Interphase days, and I'm still very good friends with. So it really was a family building experience for me. I retired from Booz Allen 3 years ago after 32 years with the firm, and took my first year of retirement to write on my memoir. I didn't say I wrote it, I didn't finish it, but I got it started, right? But one of the benefits of that was it made me reflect on my life and what really has propelled me through life and what has sustained me through life. And I came upon the 4 C's that have sustained me through my life, and all of them are applicable in the Interphase context. The first one is courage, because the world will constantly tell you what you cannot do. And you have to have the courage to go out and do those things you can't do. For me in particular, I went to an all-black high school in Houston. I did very well in my high school. I applied to MIT and Harvard and Princeton and Yale and got into all these schools. My senior counselor at my high school, who was a black woman, called me out of class to come to her office when she heard about my acceptance at these schools. I assumed she was calling me to congratulate me on having been accepted into these particular schools. Instead, she told me that she said, you may be smart for this little school here in Texas, but I'd hate for you to go up to Boston and embarrass yourself and waste your parents' money. Why don't you go to school right here in Houston where perhaps you can succeed? And it took courage for me to decide that in spite of that, and I respected her, and I always thought that she was well-meaning, and perhaps in her own way she was well-meaning. But it took real courage for me to decide that I'm still going to step out and go to MIT. Interphase, when I got the letter inviting me to Interphase, at first it felt like a reminder of what she had said, that perhaps I was not prepared to go to an MIT. And then I decided, well, no, if I've been accepted, then it means something. And I'm going to be courageous and go up there and see what happens. And it changed my life. I'm so glad I did it. It made a huge difference in my life. So courage, I think, is important, and that is important to young people in school now. It's important to any of us, even at my age now, the notion of stepping into this world, which is not inviting to many of us still. And current political situations have reminded us that this world is not necessarily inviting to us. But you have to have the courage to go off into those things that you want to do. And Interphase helped me in that context. The next C is confidence. And what I found is if you have enough confidence, then you don't need as much courage. If you build your confidence up, then you do things and you think, well, this is just how it goes. You don't see yourself as having to be courageous. And my most interesting confidence story at MIT, the first exam we took my freshman year was 801. And first year's pass, fail, and everything is on a curve, et cetera. Well, I don't know if there's anybody who was in my class here tonight, but the class average on that test out of 100 was 8. It was 8. And I recall, they pass out the exams before they tell you what class average is, right? And the guy next to me had a 1.5, and I had a 12. But, so when I got the test score, well, first when I took the test, when I opened it, it didn't look like anything we had studied that year. But when I opened the book and I saw the 12, I closed the book and I said, okay, now, maybe that 1 is a 7. Maybe this is a 7 or 2. So I prayed for a few seconds, I opened the book, but it was a 12. And what I ended up, anything over 10 was passing, and so my 12 was actually a really good score. And so the confidence that built for me at that moment, to know that I came from a school without any calculus, with a physics class that was a joke, with people who were scholars from around the world, the best in the world, in the best engineering school in the world, to have that to have that realization that relative to other people, I had done, quote unquote, that well with the 12. This is the notion of, and this came from my tutoring, the training that Jim Gates gave me in Interphase. It really was material for me. But what it also said to me is you need to own your brilliance. That MIT didn't accept you for nothing. And if they did that, even if they made the mistake, that was a door they opened for you and you just have to go through the door. So this confidence building is really important for everyone. And I think that what I found is if you surround yourself with people that help you build your confidence, and not just people that say yes, not the yes sayers, but not the negative people, not the haters around you. And when the haters come into your life, which they will, you have to turn it around. To finish the story with my counselor in high school, when I graduated from MIT, she was still in my high school. I went back, showed her my diploma. She apologized for not being encouraging. I said, no, you have no idea how much you encouraged me, because when I didn't want to stay up late and do that problem set, I could hear your voice saying I didn't deserve to be here, and I was determined for that night to be true. So I still thank Mrs. McCoy for encouraging me. And I would encourage you to take the haters and turn that back around and use that as confidence building for you. The third C is competence. And so obviously, if you have courage and you have confidence, but it's not grounded in anything, if nothing foundational there, it really is fleeting. But if you have the competence, then you can do all things. And you know when you have the competence. Now, we've all heard the adage, if you're a woman or a person of color, you have to be twice as smart and blah, 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 blah. So I just decided I'm going to be twice as smart. If I have to study hard, I'm going to study hard. In those rare occasions when the playing field is level, I'm twice as smart. And when I'm disadvantaged, I'm at least at parity with them. So I tell you to embrace this notion of twice as smart. And I can tell you, after MIT, my time at Exxon, my time at Harvard Business School, at Booz Allen, I'm now at the Carlyle Group, nothing compared to the rigor at MIT. So embrace the rigor, embrace the difficulty, learn what you can, build your confidence, build your competence, and it will go with you forever. But it's interesting, when I first started writing the book, I had 3 C's, 3 I just talked about. And as I thought more about the real difference that has happened in my life, and when I retired from Booz and I looked at people who retired like myself and found themselves lost, because their importance as a senior partner at Booz Allen didn't mean anything when they walked out in the street. That they built a career around not being there with their families, and so when they returned home, their spouses were like, I'm glad you retired, I'm happy you're here, but I built a whole life with you not being here, so I don't really have the room that you're asking for in my life. And they found themselves without. So that fourth C, that's so important, that they didn't think about along the way, is community. That's important that you build that community, however you define your community. But I can tell you that Interphase was the beginning for me of a community that has lasted through my life and continues to hold me up and to lift me up and to keep me going. And when I left Booz Allen, I had a whole life that I could live after that. It wasn't just locked up in that corporation in those many years I spent there. So I think the notion of community is really important. And I mentioned before that Jim Gates was my professor at Interphase, but I was so pleased earlier this week on Monday to be at the book signing of his book, Proving Einstein Right, in New York City with some other people here in the room as well. And to know that I walked into that room with an august person like Jim Gates, and there were so many people that I knew that were part of my community that were there as well. So the community is really important to me. Aside from the fact that Jim is going to help me with my tax preparation, because I saw something on television once about, some of you may not know what I'm talking about. There's a, was it TurboTax? Who was it? Yeah. TurboTax. A couple years ago, they had this commercial that says, you don't need a genius to do your tax, and they have various geniuses, and Jim Gates was one of the geniuses in the TV commercial, but we'll see if he helps me with my taxes or not. So I said I wouldn't say long, so I'm gonna, step away now, but I want to leave you with the most important quote that I've ever heard in my life, and a quote that I live by, and it's, I plagiarized it from Mark Twain, who said, the two most important days of your life are the day you're born and the day you understand why. And so few people live their lives in pursuit of that second day. So few people think about, why am I here? What is my purpose in life? What am I here to do? And I've been asked to speak in many places. I've been blessed with many awards, but to have been asked to come and speak tonight to this group is very purposeful to me. And all the things I've done in my life let me know that it leads me to wonderful nights like tonight. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so proud of the work that Interphase has done and how it personally affected my life, and I wish you all well. Thank you.
We are at the end of our evening, but we have some amazing last things to do, so stay with us. We are about to introduce our next awards, and this is the second Interphase Legacy Award of the evening. Dr. Shirley Ann Jackson is one of the biggest reasons we are here tonight. Without her, there is no Interphase or any of the accomplishments that grew out of it. Not only is she the first Black woman to get her PhD in physics at MIT and the second in the nation, and the first female president at and the first African-American president of Rensselaer, she was a courageous advocate for Black and other